So we will create and configure Azure Load Balancer. Before doing that, let's understand the architecture that we're going to use in this particular demonstration. I got a one virtual network, name as vnet intlb test. And this is the CIDR that I allocated to this particular virtual network. Then within this virtual network, we are going to create two subnet, my front-end subnet and my back-end subnet. In front-end subnet, we going to spin up the load balancer, which is going to be the internal load balancer, and one test VM. And in the backend subnet, we're going to spin up two web virtual machines. Okay. And as a user, we will log into this particular test. We will allocate public IP to this test VM, but these two VMs will have no public IP. They will only talk to each other on the private network. Okay. And this load balancer will basically have these two machines in their backend pool. So during the test, this user will get on this particular VM, access this load balancer, and this load balancer basically redirected traffic one at a time, in round robin fashion to one of the VM. That is the thing that we're going to do. So let's get on the portal. Okay, here what I did just to make sure that we're saving up a lot of time on demo. I created one group intlb test. Okay. And within this particular group, we got virtual network. Okay, we got a virtual network. And this virtual network, as I shown you in the architecture, we have two subnet. The subnet, one subnet represent the front end, network, and the second subnet represent backend. And both of them basically got a 24 CIDR, nothing more than that. And then what I did, I spun up three VMs, like one test VM with a public IP and two web VM which has no public IP, and all of them are there in the same virtual network. So what is that we're going to do? We first going to configure the web 1 VM, as a IIS web server, and similar thing we will do for the web 2 as well. Okay, but we can't directly log into this VM. So what is that we're going to do? We just going to log to this machine first, which is called test VM, and we will hop on from this machine to the web 1 VM. All right, so let's make sure that we open the file. All right, so let's make sure that we get that particular file. I am just going to log in on the other side and then pull that here. All right, so let me get that on the screen so that you can see as well. Again, it's going on the other screen. So I'm just going to bring back here. And what is that we need? We need a private IP of this particular machine. Okay, so what is that private IP? Let's take a look on the overview blade, and the private IP is 1.5, right? So let's get on this particular VM. Let me maximize this one. All right, and how we going to get on that particular VM? Just here, RDP login, something like this. Use the IP and the account, our standard account that we have been creating. So let me log into this particular machine, and we going to do few things. Sure that there is IIS server and firewall is not troubling us, right? Because this is a networking demo. Once firewall comes in picture, there is a lot more things that we have to do. So I just want to make sure that we're taking out the firewall first, the way that we did in few demos in the earlier section, right? That is what we will do on this machine as well. So let this machine come up with the server manager, and then we will do that particular configuration here. We're just going to say yes in this particular case, and we just going to close this small window, get on the local server, and first thing, as I said to you, we're just going to switch off the Defender firewall, because this firewall creates some issues actually. We just need to make sure that there is a right configuration, and that basically increases demo times. So hence I would like to switch this off. because we're trying to understand the the load balancer concept, not the firewall at this stage. So let's make sure that that is off. And second thing is that this is the guy also creates a trouble, so we will switch it off as well. All right, so that is done in this particular case. And now what is that we're going to do? We're going to add a web server role. So how do you do that? You select something like this, role base. Then there is a web server role, right? And we just say next, 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 and install. That's what we need to do. And let's wait for this installation to finish. It looks like installation is completed. Let's close this one. How we validate the installation? We can open up this Internet Explorer, and the IP that we got is this one, right? So we can simply say HTTP, and we should find that web server running. Let me redo once again. HTTP, let's type that IP 1.5, and we should get a beautiful page. That is the beautiful page, right? We're getting, but we can't make it out whether this is the VM1 or 2, right? If you got the load balancer doing the load balancing. So we're just going to do some kind of like a page update here, just to make sure that we know when we do the load balance through the load balancer, which VM it is getting on. So this is the way you can do. Go on a C:, inetpub wroot, www root, and then just create a kind of here file called index.html, something like that. Hit enter and open that. And what is that I'm going to do? I'm just going to copy a small code there, and let's say welcome to VM1, web1 VM, and save this file. But the problem is that when I did, it is coming as a text document. So I might need to go ahead and fix this up, because I am not in a position to do that by just saying a rename. Let's see. No, it still hold that extension actually. So let's do that. Let's do that fix through the command prompt. We go back to the root, and then we say which is the folder that we are interested in. It's going to be inet pub. Let's get into that, and then www. Let's get into that, and then we should be in a position to rename the file using the rename command, and that is the index, and we just want that index.html rather than that, and you can see that it changed. Now if I come here, do I get that? There you go. Welcome to web1 VM, right? So web1 VM is configured with the required setting now. And what I did, just to save up a time, let me close this one. Whatever I did on the web1 VM, I already addressed that on web2 VM. So what is that we're gonna do directly now? We just going to create the load balancer. Okay, so it's not standard. We have to say load balancer, right? Click on the load balancer, and what is that we're gonna do? We are going to create an internal load balancer in this case. So let's select the resource group as internal load balancer, and then I say something like this. Select that standard. We're going to say internal, not a public, and we're just going to say it's a original one. Front-end IP configuration. Let's add a front-end IP configuration for this load balancer. My internal LB IP something, name it. Select the subnet. We got a subnet, front-end subnet. Whatever that we can, zone redundant, not a problem. We select that, save this one. We go ahead and add a backend pool as well. How to add a backend pool? My backend pool in this particular case, the NIC address, right? And we just going to select the two backend pool that we have. which is web 1 and web 2. All right, we added that one and we say save. Now another thing that we need to do is a inbound rule, load balancing rule. Do we need that here? Let's see, load balancing rule. All right, so select that IPv4, just name it my LB rule. Select the front end IP, select the backend IP. TCP can say port is 80, we can't do 443, and backend port also we can say 80, and just leave rest of the other things as it is and save. Right, health probe value, we haven't created a health probe, we have to create the health probe. Let's go ahead and create the health probe, and we call this one again my health probe, and we just leave something like that as it is. All right, we leave the things because health probes are important. That is what you have to ensure that without health probe it can talk to the backend servers. Actually, we're not going to add any NAT rule, but this is the role. Let's say when you have some kind of public facing load balancer, so that people can come to the load balancer and then NAT it to like 22 or 3389 port, so that people can log into the machine, something like that, right? Next one is outbound rule. Let's not add anything there for the outbound rule, and we say review and create in this case. All right, validation pass, and we creating a load balancer. Now once we have this load balancer up and running, we will hop on to the test VM, and then we will access using the private IP that we got for this particular load balancer. And in this load balancer, there are two backend server we added. We added a health probe, and when we just access the IP address given by this particular load balancer, it should cycle through in a round robin fashion and should display us wave VM1 and wave VM2, something like that. So let's wait for this deployment to finish. This is done. Let's go to the resource and let's make sure that we see some configuration here. The way that we did, we got a front-end configuration. This is the IP we are interested in. So let's make sure that 1020, and let's ensure that we got backend servers which are running. And let's see health probe in this particular case as well. We got a health probe on load balancing rule. We got a load balancing rule, which is again TCP 80. That is what we added and nothing more, right? So let's get on to the VM. This is the VM, which is a test VM. Let's validate that this is a test VM. We go to the CMD and let's say host name. That's a test VM, and we try to access the load balancer IP from this particular test VM. So let this pop up, HTTP, and then we say load balancer IP, right? And there you go, it landed VM2. And now when I do the recycling, it landed on a VM1 again, VM1 again, and it should do that in a round robin fashion. So that is how basically load balancer works. This is the internal load balancer, but again you can have a public load balancer as well. All right, that's all pretty much in this video.